Assalamu alaikum ji. This is Tahir Malik, and obviously I'm from Gujranwala. I must thanks to all who organized this, and I must thank to technology. And I am dreaming a day when you are coming to Gujranwala and sitting among us. And I hope that day it's not very far. So feel free to take Gujranwala as your second home. And I honestly think this is a great opportunity for our students. I mean, the GIFT student, they can interact. I won't take much of the time. I would like Kashif to take the start, and I would like to give the maximum time to Dr. Islam, since I know it's a midnight there and he might be sleepy, and I want to talk to him, not sleep after some time. So please, you go ahead. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I would like to invite Dr. Frank. You can start the session, please. Thank you.
So thank you very, very much, and thank you for being there, and thank you, Khurram, for making this happen. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you, the students. I know it is a midnight here, but we are committed, and we have a passion and commitment. We're divided by distance, but we are committed because we have a strong bond that binds us together, and that's freedom of press, democracy, as well as the freedom of expression. So let me begin by saying that I'm answering this question from the perspective of a layman who's a tremendous fan and supporter of the free press in the United States and around the world. I'm fairly familiar with the issues confronting the free press and journalists, but I'm not an expert, not a practitioner. With that disclaimer, I'm pleased to answer your question to the best of my ability. So the first question. So the first question that students had asked, and then I'm going to answer that. What are the parameters of the freedom of press in America, and how did they determine it is freedom of speech, not the defamation tactics? There are virtually no parameters. That is so because the free press had helped to create the United States of America. It was revered by the founding fathers of our nation. And most importantly, freedom of press is guaranteed by the United States Constitution. Thomas Jefferson, who signed the US Constitution and became the third president of the United States, and I'm paraphrasing, that it was up to him to decide whether the country should have a government without the newspapers or newspapers without a government. Thomas Jefferson said, I prefer the latter. Most importantly, the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, which was added to the Constitution to ensure its passage, states, Congress shall make no law respecting establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. Let me contrast to what the Constitution of Pakistan says about the freedom of press and the free press. Let me read this to you so that I give it to accurately. Article 19 of the Pakistan Constitution states, every citizen shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression, and there shall be freedom of press, subject to any reasonable restriction imposed by law in the interest of the glory of Islam or the integrity, security, or defense of Pakistan or any part thereof. Friendly relations with foreign states, public order, decency, or morality are in relation to the contempt of court, commission of, or indictment, incitement to an offense. The difference between these two documents is a quantum. And as you know, so is the difference between freedom of press in the United States and Pakistan. So someone asked a question about defamation. That's definitely outside of my comfort zone and should be addressed by a legal scholar. My opinion, however, from the little that I know, is the defamation in the United States extremely difficult to prove. That answers your first question. Second question is, while President Trump is in office, what is the status of freedom of press in America? I say the status of freedom of press under this administration is in decline. President Trump does not represent the value, the character, and conscience of this great nation. The press in the United States has always been quite free. In his 2008 book titled Why Democracies Need an Unlivable Press, Michael Schuster, Columbia University professor of journalism, wrote, and let me quote what he said, "The press is more free of the government restriction in the United States than in any other nation on earth." In terms of the actual government restriction, I think the Professor Shuster's assessment remains correct. But in terms of the overall freedom of the press under President Trump, that status has definitely been declining. In April of this year, Reporters Without Borders released its annual Global World Freedom Index. The United States ranked had declined from 43rd in 2016 to 245 for 2017 on the index. The reason cited for this decline included President Trump's violent and anti-press rhetoric and attempts to block access to government information. Anybody has the question number 3 ready to go?
We have one question, Amita, please.
So the last week,
what is the future of journalism in America?
as I said it in my earlier comment, the future of America, in terms of freedom of press, is strong and vibrant, and resilient. And the fact that it is because it's dependent on the journalists who ask the tough questions, but it is in decline, as I said earlier, under this administration, because I believe he doesn't represent the values and the character of this great nation. So question number 3 is President Trump threatening journalists at the White House that if they keep on publishing news against him, he will cancel their credentials. Don't you think it is violations of the American Constitution related to freedom of speech? A very good question. I'm not certain whether the present threats are unconstitutional, but I will leave that determination to a constitutional scholar. But I'm certain, however, they are un-American. It does not represent who we are as an American. Canceling journalist credential is awful because it limits the access. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. We should remember that when Trump was campaigning for president, he refused to have certain reporters at some of his rallies. And at the rallies, when they were left in, he kept the journalists in the back of the room and vilified and denigrated them. As the president, Trump has restricted the press access to him by not holding general open press conferences and being interviewed almost exclusively on Fox News, which is the conservative news channel. Trump only held one press conference in his first year in office, and the conference he holds now are usually very limited in his scope and with other national leaders. Finally, Trump uses tweets to circumvent the press and to construct his alternative reality for the 35 to 40% of the US electorate that constitute the base. The next question, which I think is a very important question, is the fake news. The question that someone asked, the fake news and the President Trump's position against journalists in America, and how do you see it? First, I find it ironic that the president, who is certainly the most powerful and frequent purveyor of fake news in the United States of America, labels the real news inauthentic and calls the professional practitioner in the press as liar. Second, his behavior is an embarrassment for and to the United States, which has prided itself as an exemplar of the free press and the democracy worldwide. As you know, the free press is the cornerstone of democracy. Free press is a pillar of a nation. Under Trump, there has been an almost complete reversal in the role of the United States, with it setting a bad example that's causing the leaders in other nations, for example, Philippines and Singapore, to jump on the Trump fake news bandwagon. I would say that the overriding motivation of the media is to separate the facts from the fiction and to tell the truth.
Kashif from the business school. I'm heading the department right now. Thank you very much on behalf of the business school as well as Tahir Malik Saab. He welcomed you. So I also welcome you on behalf of administration and faculty and students of university. My question is more or less since I was told that your background is also in entrepreneurship and business and management. So because and I have my students sitting here, right? So I would like to benefit from your previous experience in the business and management. Can I ask you a question which pertains to business and management? Like you referred about the fake news, right? You referred about to us towards the fake news. Now, what happens like if suppose I'm a brand and I'm operating in the American hemisphere, and I spread a fake news that is not true in a sense, but that is communicated to customers. So, what is the like? What are the procedures and what are the its implications? How do the governments and how do the consumer policy and the other organizations they tend to control that fake news? And what happens once a brand is communicating something which is not true and is fake to its customers? I mean, we would like to have your say on that, so that can benefit my brand management.
First of all, let me say a little bit about the business. So I just gave $7 million to build in Aligarh Muslim University, which is where I went to school in India. $2.75 million to build Frank and Debbie, which is my wife's name is Debbie, Islamic School of Journalism. And I have always felt and thought that the Aligarh Muslim University students, just like you, are the hope of tomorrow. And this is my way of saying thank you to them and keeping the hope alive and well. As far as the fake news is concerned, anything which does not favor to this administration, they call them a fake news. I do not think that the journalists in this country take it very seriously. Their job is to tell the truth and to talk about the authentic things and the real thing which makes the news. However, sometimes the fake news travels faster. An MIT study shows that it travels many times faster than the real news. I don't think, Khurram, that the fake news has entered into the entrepreneurship, innovation, and the business market. That has not been the case. And perhaps I have not done the deep study to find that out, but that has not gone to the business community at all. So that was my answer, Ruby.
As a career, how it is viewed in America?
How you see the career of journalism in America?
That's a good question somebody asked. The future of journalism in America is very promising, and I would also say that you have to look at the. So one of the questions that somebody asked, and I said, the future is promised to no one, and any person who says that she or he can forecast the future with 100% accuracy is lying to you. What we need to do is to look at the evidence critically and then make our own best guess. My guess, based upon everything that I have seen and evaluated, is that the future of journalism is bright. The Trump effect for those in the mainstream media has been to strengthen their resolve rather than to abandon their good work. As importantly, purveyors of news such as the New York Times and the Washington Post have gained readership under this administration that they have never have attracted that many readers before. My one concern about journalism in the short term is that too much attention being paid to the shenanigans tactics of President Trump. Journalists need to continue to share the spotlight on all of those issues that are critical to the future of American society and the world. By so doing, they advance the cause of freedom, opportunity, and equality in a world that has been becoming less democratic over the past decade.
One thing I wanted to add, being a journalist in Washington, so if you're looking for a career in journalism in America, so there is not much money in journalism in America. You cannot get rich while being as a journalist. You have to be either in a business or something else, or a doctor or an engineer to get rich, because journalism will not give you enough money to achieve your American dream.
Khurram, then I would advise you to come back to Pakistan if you want to be rich and a journalist. My question to you is, how would you were born in Pakistan, you are educated here, and know you are in America. What skills, what character, what I would say abilities are very important for journalists in America, which you think Pakistani journalists are not aware. I mean, they are the future journalists you're sitting with. I'm sitting with them. I would actually like you to advise them how they can make themselves as an international, I would say, journalist.
If Pakistani American journalist, what is lacking here in Washington, which I see very closely, that the lack of mass communication education. They know the street journalism, they know the newsroom journalism, but they do not have institutional knowledge, which is coming from university like Gift University. To get that knowledge which is coming from the university, it makes you more structured when it comes to the practices. So that is the difference between, like somebody asked me, what is the difference between a mechanic and an engineer? Mechanic will never get to the variations in the mechanism of a car, but engineer should definitely get that variation, why things are changing so rapidly, and then he can make a better judgment as compared to a mechanic. Same goes with journalism. The challenge we have here in Washington either is Pakistani American journalist or Indian American journalist or any other nationality. The biggest challenge is the people who just saw the fame. Journalists have access. They get paid for their research work from their organizations, and they are always out and meeting people, which makes some people excited and they wanted to get into this profession. But the problem we are having in which actually destroying the people's life, I mean the fake news. If you throw out a fake news for somebody who's so sensitive to his profession like doctor, and it happens here like a month ago, a doctor committed suicide because somebody had a fake allegation for something which later on board cleared that it was not the case. So first thing first, the education has to be there. The education has to come from a university before they get this responsibility. Then it comes to the ethics. So journalism ethics and professionalism, all those things, somebody has to get into a real professional organization like I said Geo or Dunia or those kind of organization. Somebody has to be there inside that building for certain amount of time to learn those professional ethics, which is lacking
right.
here because America is a capitalist economy. Everything is about money. So they don't want to hire, you don't want to get a building and people and the infrastructure. They just want somebody to be there in Washington, to sitting in the State Department asking Pakistan perspective questions, which is actually hurting the journalism profession itself. It is a long story short, but everybody who is getting into this profession, the first thing, if you have a passion, if you are after money, then you are in a wrong profession. I'm telling you the truth. If you are after the money, one out of million probably will get millions of dollars, but only few people will get good enough money to raise a family. So if you are pursuing the journalism in America and you want to get America, you want to achieve the American dream, you have to have multiple sources of income, not only the journalism. But again, you will have access to President Trump, you will access to, and you name anybody, you have access. And many people who are living in America for so long, they do not even have access to get to the councilman here in local district. But journalism gives you all those opportunities. But it comes with responsibility because you are putting people's life on stake. If you are not ethical, you are not professional, you are not educated.
You have a good point. The skills for journalists should include the ability to gather and analyze information, to investigate, to engage in critical thinking. The disposition include honesty, commitment to truth-telling, patience, and persistence.
Khurram sir, can I ask you a question? You mentioned about students visiting different organizations like Geo News, and you referred few brands of the news. So my question is that even these news channels, since you are a journalist, I am a common Pakistani. I'm not a journalist by any means. So even these news channels, don't you see they have also the biasness? So how we can ensure that they are highly ethical, and the other organizations which you mentioned already, they are less ethical, and these professional channels are more ethical. So don't you think that the education provided in the university that gets spoiled sometimes once we send students to such institutions where diplomacy prevails, where the manipulation of news prevails? So how we can rest assured that the students from where they will learn ethics? I mean, that is the really the confusing part of my life also, that where we need to send them, in which industry we need to send them so that they can learn about ethics. So what is your point in that? I mean, if you say Geo is ethical, I have trillion examples perhaps that they might be ethical in few things, but they have their biases. ARY have their biases, other channels have their biases. So how we can rest assured that the channels, they are coming up with the ethical agenda that students will learn from their practices? Your say on that, please.
Okay, Frank, do you have anything on? I will answer the question, but I wanted to ask Frank, do you have anything on ethics,
Uh, well,
journalism, and ethics?
uh, well, I have several things about
Sure.
it, but I'm not real sure that is
So
the
you can go
ethics.
with, yeah. So you can go with ethics, and then I will go detail into the the particular subject.
To me, the ethics has to do with the truthful news. It's fact-based, authentic, and accurate. That's what that really means to me. And there has to be honest mistakes and the misstatements. They are misinformation, not disinformation. So that's what I say. But you go ahead and put them shed some bright light on what you think it should be there.
Okay, like the gentleman here, he mentioned that the ethics practices, which are tied to the business practices. So I give you one example of Jung's Shakil Rahman. So at one place, everybody was gathered, and he asked everybody a question, saying, "What is the news?" So everybody gave a different perspective of the news. Then he stood up and said, I think news is which will help me to pay the salary of all you 200 people. I will be shifting back and forth from Pakistan and America. Few days back, editor in Washington, he resigned from his position because he took a position on a news against a business empire here. Why he resigned? Because he stood by his position. He had ethics. He had journalism ethics. And today we see in the White House, people are threatened to be arrested, their credentials to be denied, and many of them are actually facing felony charges because of their position against fake news. So if you are in the journalism, so this is the first thing. We are coming the come to the Shakil Rahman or all those business tycoons, owners who are making money based on journalism. We'll come back to that. But when it comes to journalism, when it comes to ethics, when it comes to values, that is based of individuals. The individuals decide where they want to stand. They want to make money or they want to stick with their opinions. If I personally think abortion is wrong, I think it's wrong, and I will stick with my opinion. If I think LGBT, the gay and lesbian thing, it's wrong, it's wrong. It's my opinion, and I will stick with it. If I think corruption is not acceptable, it's not acceptable. I will not take any pie out of anything because I think it's wrong. When it comes to that is what I was saying to in my previous question, that journalism is a passion. It is what you believe in. If you believe in journalism, if you believe in ethics, if you believe in the values, if you believe in that you can make a difference in society with a little bit contribution, then you will see the things will change. But the problem is, again, many of those institutions are like Geo, Dunia, Sama, Express, you name. I know a lot. I know hundreds of people in Pakistan in those news channels. How many?
Khurram, I'm sorry for the interruption. Khurram, I'm sorry for the interruption,
Sure,
but
please.
I have the same point of view when I go through the American media. I see the same, I would say, responsibility question, the ethical question. Do you really think American media is responsible, being the most powerful country on the earth? Look how they see the Palestine issue, how they treat Muslim world. I see biases. I see their, I would say, hidden agenda there. What do you say on it? What is your comment?
Sure, sure, sure. Okay, there is one thing where we are lacking. We mean Pakistan is lacking, and America and India actually, they both are very successful in that. The first thing is government creates a narrative, then they transform that narrative into the society. Over the period of time, let's say everybody knows, if you go out, you talk to anyone, any American, I'm talking about the educated American, not somebody sitting in butcher shop in Kentucky. If you ask him about Palestine, he will give you the exact same what you're saying about what we have in Pakistan, what we have about the sympathies for Palestine, for example. But the government narrative prevails. Every citizen is on board when it comes to the government's interest, America's interest. Everybody is on board. So this is the difference. When it comes to Pakistan, it is more of a rating. The government is fail to bring. Sorry.
Khurram, I'm sorry. That is $1 million question. As a journalist, am I serving to the government or I am serving to the people? I am serving to the truth or I am serving to the state? That is $1 million question.
Okay, so again, it is very again that is it is the same place I was going with when it comes to the policies which is made by those people who are running the business. Um, so most of the time, it happens that the policy which is made by the owners, it prevails. Fox News, it is with the President Trump. They will do all those things which is President Trump.
That's how you're different from Pakistan.
So it is different from Pakistan in the sense of government's narrative. That's what I'm saying. That even in
I
the
see more
Republic,
value in Pakistan. Pakistani journalists have tendency to stand against state. Pakistani journalists has more tendency to stand against the government. And if they disagree, they disagree. We are the only country, we are the only journalists in the human history. ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਕੋੜੇ ਖਾਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਯਾਰ. I think if you are
I
serving the
totally agree.
government,
No, the challenge
what is
is
responsibility?
no. I totally agree with you that the challenges we have in Pakistan much higher. I mean, if not only Pakistan, if you see the India, they are kind of in the same place where we see the assassinations and all those things challenges the the journalists are getting. In civilized society, same thing happens but in a different fashion. In a society like Pakistan, everything is, since everything is out of way, people conduct everything out of way. It is more of you can say, I I mean, again, it's a long debate, but the thing is, you are right that if you look into this perspective, that if something is going wrong, and one institution like Washington Post, for example, they decide to go with Israel and ignore Palestine, they will do it, and that will be the policy of the whole Washington Post. It is same as in Pakistan. If Geo takes a position that we are going with the government now, they will start going with the government. Practices wise, it is happening at the same practices are happening both places, America and Pakistan or India and other place. Then when it comes to the business, the whole policy changes. But on individual level, we see in America, as I see the people, they stick with their opinion, they stick with their position. In Pakistan, we have seen the same. I mean, if you see the Umar Chima, I mean, the Panama leaks. So I know he's facing all those hardship after that. So it's a very tough question. But again, I mean, in one place it is unstructured, other places structured, more functional way to do the same thing. Um, Tough thing. I mean, I will ask your input to that. I mean, you're the master of your domain.
Same. I don't see any difference. I would, in a way, it's not my bias. I think Pakistani journalists are more, I would appreciate them more than American journalists because the working conditions are not as good as American. So we have more tendency to stand against state. We have more tendency to stand against the government for the people. We are more democratic. Any other question?
As you are entrepreneur, you are running some business companies as well.
Right, right.
The only source of income of the media is the advertisements, sponsorship, as we witness in different parts of the world. So, do you think that big finance companies and business companies control the agenda of media?
I don't. I do not think that anybody control the media. Media is pretty independent. But your point is trying to marry because the fact that you're a business person, you have the money, and you will be able to give money to the media and especially the news organization because the fact that you have the money for the ad. That's what you mentioned. It does happen, but I don't think. I do not. I think the money usually is going to the people in the media, which is the marketing people. It doesn't reach to the top of the echelon. So they they really are not affected by the fact that you put the ad in the paper and therefore they will favor you or disfavor you. I don't think so.
Basically, my question is that you talked about freedom of journalism in media. So, according to you, which media or journalism is more liberal, either Pakistani or American? Like, which one is given more freedom of expression and movement in every aspect?
Well, you asked the two questions. I did not know about the liberal part. What's your definition of progressives? There are certain news organizations that's a very progressive and liberal, and they believe in human rights, civil rights, and women's rights, and make sure we can build a country for all, not for the selected few. And they do give a lot of opportunity to the people like myself who are immigrant to this nation. So those are what I call a progressive media. But there are conservative media also, which is the Fox News is a good example. And there are a couple of more, but they're not. There's another. There's a Sinclair news organization that's also very, very, very conservative. So they try to push their own messaging. But I would think that the American people should be able to separate to be figured out whether in terms of the whether the message they want to listen and hear is the progressive or liberal or something conservative. So they have to make their own decision. The second question that you asked, what about the freedom of press? Freedom of press is guaranteed in America. It's a part of our Constitution. As a matter of fact, James, this is the first amendment to our Constitution that James Madison did, and it is a very precious to America. The America's free press is a cornerstone or pillar of our country, and we believe in it. So journalists have the right to tell, and the reporting the story can be dangerous, but freedom includes the right to be outrageous. Responsibility includes the right to be fair. And journalists, a free press at its best reveals the truth. So to answer your question in simple, I would say that the free press in America is a lot more free than I would say in India and Pakistan is. As a matter of fact, the study that we have seen, the free press in America, the freedom of press is more than any other country on the earth. You know, we have that's why we promote in America freedom of press, freedom of expression, human rights, civil rights, women's rights all over the globe. Unfortunately, this administration has not taken a stand on those issues. That's something that is a precious possession to America. That's a part of our Constitution.
Sir, I am a business student. So from today's discussion, I came to know that the media is the main problem the media is facing, that is of fake. As Sir Khurram told us that the example of a doctor who got suicide just after the hearing of fake news. So this fake news is just because of the issues of journalism, or the other reason is just to increase the ranking of their shows. Why these fake news are published? As you are a senior journalist, I want to ask this.
maybe Khurram, you can shed some light on it. I have not experienced the fake news, and I am a very active participant in this process. So I'd rather not comment on something that I'm not familiar with. I do not know much about it. But the fake news was not in existence till this administration came into existence. This administration has promoted the fake news because the news that does not favor to the president, he calls them alternative facts and the fake news. President Obama, who was the president before, and the George W. Bush, they never ever talked. You never heard of the fake news at that time. So this is a new phenomena, and we have to figure out how to live with it as long as we can separate the facts from the fictions and tell the truth. And that's the responsibility of journalists is. But American people are smart enough to figure that out. But the real news are fake news. And also the social media, which is in this case the Facebook or Twitter, and also the Reddit, has to also make a judgment call not to promote the fake news and to delete it. And they are doing that. They are under radar screen, and they are continuing to do so. I know Facebook is taking steps to correct the situation right now. As you know, our democracy is at stake because what happened here in terms of the Russian collusion, and whatever President Trump says, he has entitled to his own opinion, but Russian undermined our democracy, and we need to make sure we have the answer and make sure that does not happen again. And that happened because of the Facebook and so the social media and digital media that played an important role. Otherwise, Hillary Clinton would have been the president of the United States, not Trump.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we should go for the end now, and I want your final remarks on this session, and then we formally end this session.
Museum here in Washington, D.C. called News Museum, a wonderful museum dedicated to the freedom of press in Washington, D.C. And they have this statement that is etched, and it says, the free press is a cornerstone of democracy. People have the need to know. Journalists have the right to tell. Finding the facts can be difficult. Reporting the story can be dangerous. Freedom includes the right to be outrageous. Responsibility includes the right to be fair. News is history in the making. Journalists provide the first draft of history. A free press, at its very best, reveals the truth. So that will be my concluding remark.
Thank you so much on behalf of Department of Mass Communication and GIFT Business School Business Management Department. I would like to thank you so much, and hopefully you will join us in GIFT University physically someday. Thank you so much, and last clapping for you. Thank you.